Hello and welcome to the Shed Sessions Presents Let's Read Something. I'm your host and reader Jesse, and in this series we're going to take a look at different texts and documents that aren't normally found in audio format and read them aloud. So in this episode we're going to be reading famous poems. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to just read these from one to the next. And this is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends and dips his wing in the orange sun's rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still. His head is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams, his shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but long for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The next is I'm Nobody, Who Are You? By Emily Dickinson. I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell, they'll advertise, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog. To tell one's name the livelong June to an admiring bog. This is Because I Could Not Stop for Death by Emily Dickinson. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain, we passed the setting sun. Or rather, he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill, for only gossamer my gown, my tippet only toll. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then is 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. This is Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. This is Nothing Gold Can Stay, also by Robert Frost. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. And here's another by Robert Frost, Fire and Ice. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. This is Alone with Everybody by Charles Bukowski. The flesh covers the bone, and they put a mind in there, and sometimes a soul. And the women break vases against the walls, and the men drink too much, and nobody finds the one, but keep looking, crawling in and out of beds, Flesh covers the bone, and flesh searches for more than flesh. There's no chance at all. We are all trapped by a singular fate. Nobody ever finds the one. The city dumps fill, the junkyards fill, the madhouses fill, the hospitals fill, the graveyards fill. Nothing else fills. And this one is Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. The wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men, who caught and sang in the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieve it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. All right, bear with me on this one. This is Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. 'Twas brillig in the slivy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves and the momraths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time the manxome foe he sought, so rested by the tumtum tree, and stood awhile in thought. And, as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffing through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabulous day, Callooh, Calais, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig in the slivy toves, did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the momraths outgrabe. All right, so this one is When You Are Old by William Butler Yeats. When you are old and gray and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace and loved your beauty with love false or true? But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur, a little sadly, how love fled, and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face amid the crowd of stars. And this is Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's leaf hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot in the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair trust. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade. When eternal lines to time thou growest, so long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives live, and this gives life to thee. This is How Do I Love Thee by Elizabeth Browning. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight. For ends of being and ideal grace, for I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need, by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with a passion put to use in my old griefs and with my childhood's faith. I love thee with a love I seem to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears, all of my life, and, if God choose, I shall love thee better after death.